meeting is being recorded.
There she is.
Yeah, my lovely lady.
We need a name for her.
Yeah, I think so. Cindy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Warhammer Cindy.
Just popped in my head. That's the first thing that popped in my head. Cindy.
Is that because you didn't have Barbies, you had Cindy's? Is that because that was the thing with us, right? Like the UK got Cindy, not Barbie. It was the UK equivalent. I think that's right.
I don't know. Just, I think she just sounds like a Cindy.
Okay, yeah.
I've no idea about Barbie dolls. I was not a collector or a procurer of Barbie dolls.
You not got sisters?
No. I have a sister, but I don't think she had Barbie dolls. Okay. I can't remember.
Yeah. No, like I say, I'm pretty sure.
Yesterday, so
pretty sure in the UK we had Cindy, not Barbie, because we don't want that American trash.
Okay, well there you go. For you Barbie lovers out there who might be watching.
Yeah, I'm throwing shade already. we've not even kicked off, and I'm throwing shade.
Yeah,
good lord.
Yeah. So, but John, thanks again for joining me, mate.
Mate, always a pleasure. You know, I'm always happy to chat. I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. We can have more on there, I think, because look, we're gonna focus again probably on Epic, because this is the issue that really got you going, isn't it, mate?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
issue 188. That's where it started for me. Front cover. That's a Dave Gallagher. It's the cover of Codex Tyranids for 2nd edition, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Blinder. Look at that. That's what Tyranids should look like. Bunch of multicolored dinosaur, insect, lizard monsters. They're, man. I love, Dave's work. Like, he did a lot of the covers back in the day, and it's just something about the colors more than anything, and certainly that era of Tyranid colors where it was. We didn't really have. I mean, well, the Hive fleets existed, but they didn't have that color coding that they have now. So Gene Steers were blue and purple, Termagants were red, Hormagants were blue and purple, and then like the kind of the boss tier creatures were just like all of the colors. So yeah, it's a look, man. I love them.
Yeah, I like Dave's style in that he had a lot of contrast. He had like this kind of like a glistening effect. This one like a sort of a like the prime color being red, but then he had a lot of whites that sort of made things sort of pop and glisten on the surface of
everything's wet and dripping, a little bit of airbrushing here and there to give that kind of glow, and then just those super hard white hard points. It's good. It's interesting. You see a lot of that in contemporary painting, actually. Like a lot of people have gone to doing those little like light hits. So it's funny, everything kind of goes in circles, doesn't it?
Yeah. Pretty awesome cover. I like that a lot. Okay. Now, as we were talking before, this is the Australian edition of this White Dwarf. So happily compare that with your other editions around the world.
So you don't have the inner cover with the heavy metal picture of the Tyranids fighting the Ultramarines and the Dwarves fighting the Skaven? So that's interesting.
Well, according to this PDF that I've taken from the White Dwarf reviews on Facebook page, it doesn't have it. So that's a really good point, because maybe that was the inside cover, because this should maybe it isn't actually. Maybe this is the inside cover, because the next page is the contents, and that usually mars up. Yeah, it is. That's right. So
so you can see you've got an advert where I've got two pictures that I poured over. Like that was in the days when I had tens of figures, and there's these hundreds of figures lined up, and you're like, oh, what must it be like to own this many models and this much cool terrain?
Wow. Okay.
So that's an interesting regional difference there. They stole some heavy metal photos from you, mate, and replaced it with an advert. The swines.
So I want the UK. That could just almost open up a new avenue of which editions and how they differ.
Which edition did you read?
Yeah.
And we were saying, like, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying the American issues were sort of one behind us, if that makes sense. So like our issue 188 is their issue 189 or something crazy. So that often throws people out as well. There's a slight time shift between UK and US, because it looks like you've got the UK edition, but then just sort of some slight tweaks for the kind of the adverts and whatnot. But yeah.
But did you know that I didn't realize this until recently, that the German edition of White Dwarf was numbered like they started from, I don't know, around 5th edition or something like that. I don't know what number.
Right.
180, probably around this edition actually. Somewhere around here, but they started with issue 1 and issue 2 and issue 3.
Right. So they sort of reset the clock for the European market. That's cool.
Amazing, isn't it? So Yeah, really cool. Okay, so covering this issue, the contents, we've got, of course, the cover by Dave Gallagher, the Codex Tyranids. We've got some heavy metal section here covering the hotness of the month, which are Tyranids, of course. We've got a bit of fantasy with Arbal, the Undefeated. We've got some great Plague Engines and Nurgle for Epic. We've got some Dark Elf Battle Tactics and Blood Angels Death Company. And a bit of Game Day and Golden Demon information for 1995. We've got Creatures of Darkness with Ian Pickstock. And we've got Stomp and Smash. That's probably the biggest one we're going to cover today, I think, with John. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I think terrifyingly, looking at this, I think I've owned every single model that's in that set of articles. Like, how bad is that? Like, I don't own all of them anymore, but I think maybe not the Blood Angels Terminators. Maybe I only ever had the plastic Terminators, but apart from that, I have had in my ownership every single model that you've just read out, which is kind of terrifying.
Well, I think someone's going to beat that. I think that's Andrew Smith, winner of our reader survey.
Yeah,
prize draw. Shows off just a small collection of his £3,000 worth of Games Workshop and Citadel goodies he's won. Now that's a lot of stuff.
Of course, unkind commentators would say that would be like one army now, but
yeah. That's a normal.
Yeah, man, the old mega prize draws were incredible. It was one of every box or book that came out that year, wasn't it? So
say what you like.
Wonder if he's out there still playing.
Yeah, but say what you like about Games Workshop being stingy bastards, but bloody hell, £3,000.
Yeah,
that's not
good.
A lot. That's not a little bit of money. That's a lot of money in 1990.
Certainly in 95, yeah. And look at that photo. I mean, that's the Games Workshop you and I know, right? There's walls of brightly coloured boxes, racks of blisters. You sort through those blisters and just discover all those gems like that. You know, you can see why there's old gits like us poring over this, and those people that kind of like almost recreating GWs. That's why the sort of sealed box market is so hot at the moment. You know, people are trying to rebuild the GWs of their yore, and you see these people who've got these little cupboards in their houses, and you open them out, and it just looks like that photo. That's kind of awesome. Yeah, man.
Yeah, the red carpet. I think they should have red walls too, shouldn't they? They had red walls back in those days.
Well, you see there's a petition. There's like the last GW is being converted to a Warhammer, and they're going to finally get rid of the red carpet and the red sides, and there's a petition to stop it because it's considered like a site of cultural importance or something. Like I don't know, man. Like, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
That red carpet and the red tables, the little four-way red tables for the painting desks and stuff. Man.
Yeah, you can't beat
good times.
Yeah, that's right, mate. That's it. The glory days. So yeah, that's one lucky winner. No wonder he's smiling. Okay, so we've got a bit of Warhammer Quest with Elf Ranger. Looks like he was the release for this month.
Great model, that one.
£6.99. What a steal. So
yeah, I wonder what the eBay price on that is now. More like 40.
Yeah, probably something like that. And in a box and everything with all the cards and everything like that. Yeah, I'd hate to think how much that costs now. Okay, we're going to touch on a bit of Epic now. So this month's Epic releases were the Imperial Command Tanks, Contagion Plague Engines, and the Plague Tower. I've got to say, John, I'm pretty tempted with the Plague Tower. I wasn't really aware of these Contagion Plague Engines. And
oh, really?
Yeah, until recently. I think it was this issue, actually, when I was looking through it. Before I saw them, I thought, ooh, and then I know Dave's got one, and my good mate in the UK as well has got one. Deep, he's got one as well. So
yep, Deep's got one. Yeah, they're fun. When we will talk about it when we get to the article.
We'll get to the article and see what they can do.
Yeah, I was going to say, just quite entertaining there. The old Canterbury store, that is still in that location to this day. I pop by every so often. It's a Warhammer now, not a Games Workshop. My mate Rancy used to manage that one. That's a store I'm familiar with. So that says a lot, doesn't it? That was just opening nearly 30 years ago as I got into Warhammer, and it's still there to this day. And I wonder how many Games Workshops are where they were. So yeah, weird little bit of history there.
It is, mate. It is, absolutely. And we've got this month's releases for the two main games, of course. Warhammer being Dark Elf Corsairs, Dark Elf Cold Cavalry, Harpies, Arbel the Undefeated, Dark Elf Transfers, and Dark Elf Banners. And for 40k, we've got Codex Tyranids and all the Tyranid releases. I won't go through all of those. I'll probably pronounce them, no doubt. But yeah, all the Tyranids were the hotness back then. We've got Mike McVeigh on standing on the summit of Mount Rainier. the second highest peak in mainland USA. So there he is on his travels.
Something to do, innit?
Yeah, I know he did like mountain climbing. I know that. So that was kind of his.
I was having a funny conversation actually the other day. So we've hired Colin Grayson from GW, and we were chatting about some of these old articles. And there's one where there's a whole bunch of the GW crew up a mountain, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's me in the back of that photo." And it's just that weird thing of like a 12-year-old, 11-year-old me poring over these magazines, and now I get to manage one of the legends contained within. Like it's quite a weird. It's a weird moment, if that makes sense. And so many people flash up in White Dwarfs as I go through them that I've gamed with over the years or met and been in parts of clubs with and stuff. And it's interesting. It's that kind of it is a small world sometimes, and you do go, oh guys, it's Nick. I used to play War Machine with Nick, and here he is like winning tournaments back in the day and whatever. So yeah, man.
Cool, mate. That's awesome. All right, so we've got all this is all the UK stores and where they are at and that kind of thing. We're just going to skim over that, guys.
Yeah, very, very few stores back in the day. I remember they were celebrating their 100th store, and how many have they got now?
I don't know, how many have they got now?
Less. No, considerably more.
Really?
Way more. Yeah, I think they were at 400 not so long ago.
Oh, wow.
That's globally now, not just UK, of course.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Yep. Wow, that's a lot. Okay. Didn't realize that. I thought they went through a process of actually shutting down stores, but
they did close a lot down. But what they did instead, they've started turning them into the one-man stores, and so that's it's the one-man store only opens 5 days a week, doesn't open Monday, Tuesday,
right?
And that sort of put them back into being profitable and useful. And it is that thing, every town in the UK kind of has a GW as the kind of joke, and that's their recruitment. That's how they get people into the hobby. So they have a value.
Cool. Okay, didn't know that. All right, so I'm sort of out of the loop now, so to speak, what's happening these days. But here we go. We've got an Inferno. Looks like an actual event happening at your local Games Workshop store back in '95. And
did you ever do any of the road shows when you were working in the stores?
No, I can't remember doing any of them. Yeah, to be honest.
I definitely did the Warhammer Storm of Chaos one, and I can't remember what the 40k one was before that. But yeah, I did a few. They were always good fun, and it was that thing, every store paid a squad and contributed, and then we sort of sent them from store to store, and yeah, it was really good having this kind of massive box of toys and terrain turn up for the weekend, and you put on this crazy show. I just don't think they could do it anymore, again, because of the one-man stores, which is a shame.
Yeah, that's a shame. All right, let's go into the Hive Tyrants. What an awesome model this is, and what a cracking paint job too. I love all the multicolored, and I like the one below, actually. The one at the bottom here looks really cool. All that pink and really stark contrast between that and the purpley blacks and that kind of thing. Did you own this model, mate? You owned this model?
Yep. Yeah, I had a couple. Yep. So it's an interesting thing. Like, I don't know if this is a common experience, but so this was my first issue that I owned. I'd read some prior. I think I've done the origin story with my cousin, but like the armies I collected were Dark Elves, and I always wanted Tyranids, and I don't know if it's because this was this issue. So this was the issue where Tyranids were launched and Dark Elves, I think it was their second month of release. And so this is what I saw first and was like, that's awesome. Or it's just, I was like, I like cool stompy aliens and I like cynical, evil elves. But yeah, so I did own a complete metal Tyranid army, which I'd stupidly sold quite recently because I was like, I'm never going to get around to doing anything with this. But yeah, I had a couple of Hive Tyrants. I had like 2 of everything and full metal squads of termagants and all sorts. And I was like, it's too much, man. It's too much. There's too many projects. So I'm doing it again in Epic. I think that's the trick, is do it at Epic scale, and it's a bit more
You're very wise man, John. Very wise.
And I think Epic's the better game. You and I have a love for Epic.
I think so. I think, for achieving those hobby goals now, or those lifelong dreams of obtaining all those armies, and when you're on a budget, I think Epic's the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andy Chambers goes through his publication. This is the Codex Tyranids that he wrote and devised for your games of Warhammer 40k. Look, we're not going to go through all the things here because it's obviously just about the Codex and what was contained in it, which is in the Codex anyway. Is pretty much verbatim what was in there anyway. So if you have a copy of Codex Tyranids, go through that yourselves in your own time. But we're here to look at the pretty pictures. That's what really counts.
Yeah.
Now these things,
those gargoyles,
hideous,
man.
don't they? They're pretty hideous.
Perry twins, I want to say. Perry twin gargoyles. And again, it's that interesting thing. You look at the paint scheme where it's not any of the kind of the archetypal hive fleets that we know now, and they're not all the same. Like, they're all the same color groupings, but there's variations. So they've got different purples and blues in the wings, and they're not all the same shade of red. And you were working for Heavy Metal for a bit, doing similar kind of thing with the Lizardmen, right? So was that like a conscious decision at the time, where it's like, we want variation within the units, whereas now everything's very regimented, even organic stuff like Tyranids?
I don't know. I think maybe it was just like based on the painter, and they just,
okay.
We need them green. Then there's gonna be like different shades, different variations of green, I suppose.
Okay.
And like, Mark, he would paint it in a totally different sort of very subdued green and dark green, whereas I would paint it in a much brighter green.
Sure.
So I think it's just based on people's style, I think, really. Yeah.
I mean, that's really cool, isn't it? I did that. You almost like, every painter gets one and does it in their style, and then because you've got the kind of the overarching Heavy Metal theory, as it were, they hang together well on the table. And I do think that's something. The Heavy Metal team are incredible. They've always been incredible. There's been different styles and different tones throughout the years, but like, it is interesting now that it's very, very regimented, and it's quite hard to say who painted what. But you look at the old stuff, and there is an individualism, a personality to each of the paint jobs.
Exactly. I can always tell a Paul Muller's paint job. I can always, or we can say, okay, that's Paul. Paul did that because he's got a very distinctive style about the way he did things in his process. So I've got some concept work here by Jez.
That's all Jez, love it.
Bloody beautiful.
Just the greatest concept artist, right?
Oh, absolutely, mate. Yeah, I was just looking at an assassin in a previous issue before, and it's just amazing. Like,
is that the Aversa down in the tunnels?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, smashing piece.
Love that one. I love that concept artwork. Yeah, they're images that sort of stick in your mind forever. I mean, you can look at 1,000 images, but I think Jez's concepts they just implant in your mind.
It's his ability to literally draw the model. Like, he's drawn a concept art piece, but it's, you look at that Hive Tyrant, it's so close to the final miniature, and you're like, not many people can do that. Most people will, it's one of the things we, in my day-to-day job, we have that translation from, virtual to physical, and sometimes it's quite hard to, to get a concept art piece that actually works as a miniature as well as a piece of art. Jez just seems to be able to capture and I guess it's because he sculpts as well, so he knows what a physical model has to be, and so he can draw art that can then translate in. But yeah, it's just I just think he's an absolute legend.
Yep, absolutely,
really is.
Absolutely. So looks like we've got some John Blanche.
A little bit of John Blanche as well.
Yep.
You don't get many John Blanche, like, that's the more finished end of Blanche's style. Obviously it's not color, but it's quite a finished piece, and it's more of an illustration, whereas he is so much now about kind of world building and feel and theory. And I know that it's sort of been said that he's just trying to get as much out whilst he's still active, as depressing as that sounds. So he's kind of moved away from the more finished pieces because he's just, I don't have time. But it's so nice when you go through some of the older books and you do see these finished John Blanche pieces where he's actually created a full illustration, and even a full color illustration in some cases, like the Epic 40,000 box or the second edition 40k box. You just love to see it, because I know he has his detractors, but I just think the man is Warhammer. Like, he distills Warhammer from his brain onto the page, and I don't give a crap about people that complain about his perspective or whatever. Like, it's a representation of the madness that is Warhammer, and I just think him and Jez and Wayne England and Mark Gibbons, they're the kind of the four of them. If I could just bottle up their skill in one package, I'd have that, please.
Yep. Absolutely, mate. No, I think John brought something. He brought every artist brings something different, a different style, a different sort of like a window into the Warhammer universe or 40k universe. And yeah, John brought his own visions. And Mark had a very stylized way where he would bring these incredible, dynamic looking images of particular characters or troop types or whatever, and did them perfectly and did it very consistently. And Jon had his very unique style where he would have these massive scaled, explosions of, action happening in these small windows of frameworks that he used to work with. And there'd be so much detail, and I'd love them. I think they're just absolutely awesome. So yeah, I mean, I think Mark set the standard basically for everybody to follow. But you had Wayne doing some incredible stuff that was legendary, and Jon would be the godfather basically, or the granddaddy,
definitely,
of all the artists. So he's really setting the template for imagery and style. You can't go past Blanche, I don't think. So we've got some termagants here. Okay.
Nice to see the old handmade terrain.
Yeah.
You don't get much of that anymore, do you? But yeah, those trees are, and the old Goblin Green bases. Everything's on a Goblin Green base. Every planet is the Goblin Green planet. Like,
absolutely.
It's of a time, but it does make everything pop.
It does, mate. Yeah, it suits it perfectly. Yeah, and it does really bring the colors of the models out too. So Okay, looking at the mission strategy and biomorphs for the Tyranids and more stuff and background information for them. I'm just going to skim over that. And we're going to go to more colored pictures of the Lictors now. Not my favorite model, if I'm to be honest about
Just because of the pose, do you think?
Yeah, it's a bit weird, but yeah.
Yeah, it's that sort of dynamic, that kind of he's exploding all his flesh hooks out. Maybe it was a bit of a strange, it's a sort of snapshot moment of action, isn't it? Which, I don't know. He's
but painted very well. It's painted very well. Yeah. So
nice color transitions, nice fades.
But again,
I would say I've never liked the newer versions of the Lictor. I think it's one of the few models that has only had two. I think I'm right in saying there's only been two versions of the Lictor, maybe three, but it's never quite lived up to its kind of, because it's kind of the Predator meets the Alien, isn't it? It's that it goes ahead and hunts on its own and can go invisible with its chameleon scales and stuff. And yeah, it should be this absolutely terrifying horror. I don't know.
Because it wants to hug you more than
man.
Hug and deal with you probably. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we got Games Workshop. Let's see. Don't miss out.
The roadshow.
Be there or die.
Be there or die. That's a statement, isn't it? Were you there? Big. I wasn't there. I'm not dead. I think they lied. But
Doomsday or something. Yeah, like you could win a prize. Okay, there you go. How fun. So August tour dates, and there they are. Thank you very much. So, like I said, in every issue, like if you've been to one of these events, please leave in the comments below. It'd be fun to just read your stories about,
Did you win the prize? Was it a T-shirt? Was it a roadshow T-shirt? What was it?
Yeah. Hold away. Maybe you can speak from the dead or something. I don't know.
I was going to say, how are they going to communicate with us if they died? That's an awkward question.
We'll have to find a way.
Someone now is going to type, "I was there, Josh. I died," and you're going to be like, "Wait, what?"
Please tell us more. Yeah. So. Okay, now another model which I've got to say is not my favorite.
Not a fan.
Not a massive fan, but it's
not
bad.
Its age.
It's not bad. It's of its age. Mate. It's had a unique banner. Arbol, the undefeated destroyer of Khorne. I don't know, but I got the Spawn model, Skylar
and Van Gimmer or whatever it is. Yeah,
it's not a bad little mini, that one actually. So maybe if I held this thing in the flesh, maybe I'd feel different about it.
It's quite dinky, the flesh hound is quite it's obviously bigger than the cavalry flesh hound, but it's still quite a dinky little flesh hound. And then he is this quite chunky model on top. I mean, look at that glove, look at that axe. That is some proper 90s lead. But I don't know, man. Like, nostalgia is a powerful drug. I just think anything from this era, it just has a weight and a heft and a presence that I get a kick out of. Not every model from this era has survived the ages, shall we say, but I think he's okay. I think he's all right.
I think if you painted the green in black, right?
Right.
Red and
You're not a
black.
fan of that bright green and red.
No, the green just never suited corn. I
Interesting.
don't know why they have put green on corn stuff. It's just weird.
You know, I do it on all mine. My little epic flesh hounds have all got green collars.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to report you, mate, to the
Yeah. The league against crazy green corn. Yeah, no, fair enough.
Inquisitorum or whatever they're called.
Yeah. No, I did. What was it the Underworld's warband that comes with the flesh hound? I did it with a green collar or a green like frill, whatever you want to call it, as a homage to the 90s.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. It depends. If you could create like a really high contrast green, like really deep colors, but then have really nice yellowy kind of highlights on the end, maybe that'll
definitely
look better. But I was thinking if you gave him a shield and have a really nice looking corn icon, because I think that's what he's really missing. He doesn't really have a corn icon on him, even on the banner, but it's got the banner pole.
Sure.
The top of the banner pole. But I reckon if you just change it slightly, maybe some different colors, yeah, he would look pretty cool. Have the skulls painted in actual like actual skull colors rather than silver, or make, I don't know, maybe it just needs a few different tweaks here and there, maybe to really bring him out. But yeah. Oh, and I've got to admit, when I painted my Skylar, I did add green to it. So there you go, John. I'm also going to be investigated, I think.
I mean, green and red is the classic contrast. Like, the trick is, it's how do you do it without it looking like Christmas? That's the hard part. Like, it's so easy for that to slide into the Christmas spirit, and I don't think corn is the god of Christmas spirit. Last I checked.
True. But you look at the bloodletters, right? They have those really dark looking green swords. The
green swords, yeah.
And the black green looks pretty cool because it looks really dark and demonic and evil, and it looks like it's going to tear your soul out once they
some sort of like onyx possessed blade. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Cool. I think that looks much better. So yeah, the really dark, deep green look pretty cool. So Rick Prusy goes over the character here, Arbol the Undefeated. And
this is something that's quite interesting. White Dwarf has been through so many eras now. So this was, literally taken from the rule books. This was the rules as presented in the rule book, and you got that quite a lot. And there's that interesting thing of like, is it filler? Because if you've got the army book, you've already got this. Or is it interesting because it's letting people see the rules? Or maybe if you don't buy the rule book and you want to use them, or if you play against it, you can make sure the rules are correct. Like, there's an interesting debate, and I know, like, the kind of the peak era is the giant era where people are getting really fed up of the same model being presented 12 times and rules and whatnot. But like, what's interesting now is obviously White Dwarf no longer puts new releases in and doesn't do content quite like this, but it does do rules-based content again, and it was one of those things that people really missed. So it's an interesting question of, should White Dwarf have rules content in it, and if so, should it be this, or should it be supplemental rules content, so like variant scenarios or maybe alternative army builds or something? And it's this constant, like, there's this constant back and forth push pull of like, oh, you've gone too far, and then you get the thing where you have to have every White Dwarf to play every game, and then it's, oh, there's not enough, so White Dwarf's got no content in it. But it's just interesting that at this era, and it was great for me, as a kid, I had 2 buttons to my name, as they say, so like, this was how I learned about different things. I didn't own all the army books, so I needed to, just get a feel for all the different armies. And this was really good. You're like, oh, there's this guy Arbol, and he works for Khorne, so I'll find out what Khorne means. And obviously, we can just go on the internet and find out. So you had to do a bit of reading around it. And yeah, you just started to build up that picture of Warhammer through these little snippets of the things. So I don't know, man. Like, what's your take on that? Did you find this kind of content useful, or was it just fluff to you, or like, what was the crack?
Yeah, I was a big Chaos player anyway back in those days. I was a big lover of Chaos, but I didn't really get into this side of, this is 4th edition?
Yes, correct.
It is 4th edition, isn't it? Yeah, have a look.
Yeah.
Maybe he came back in the 5th edition set as well, I'm not sure, but
yeah, he was in the supplemental book, wasn't he?
He was, right, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'm a picture guy, so I like looking at the models. I like looking at the paint schemes. I like looking at those aspects of White Dwarf, and looking at the rules, of course. I like looking at that. The background fluff and all that kind of stuff was kind of like a secondary thing for me. It was like, oh, if I look at the model, I really like the model. I really like the paint job. Okay, let's learn more about how it plays and that kind of thing. and maybe read about the background of the model or army or whatever it might be. So yeah, but of course it does help because you want to paint that picture in your mind of what this character, how he sort of what he does or his place in the game system or the old world or 40k system, whatever it might be. So you might build an entire army around one character. So yeah, but yeah, no, it's all very good. I mean, all this stuff was out of the army books anyway.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah.
This is all just sort of copied and pasted in there.
Yeah, definitely.
In most cases. So we've got the Warhammer Quest Elf Ranger. Sorry, mate. Yeah, so the Elf Ranger's here. Another Jez Gooden designed model.
Second advert for the same box, though. I think that's where people used to get upset. You had the new releases information about him, and now he's got a whole page full color advert. So
that's right.
And again, that's something you don't see in White Dwarf anymore. You don't get full page adverts in the magazine for product, which I think is probably a good thing because, is White Dwarf a catalog? Is it a magazine full of articles? Is it an advert? Like, what is it? And I think Lyle's doing a really good job. Lyle, this guy I know from Privateer Press, used to be the editor of their magazine and has moved over to White Dwarf. And I think he's found a really good, happy ground of like the content is content rather than adverts and filler, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think White Dwarf's in a really good place again now. It's really enjoyable to read it. Takes you a couple of days to get through it again, rather than the kind of the 20-minute flick through the peak giant era, as it became known. Of like, yeah, White Dwarf didn't have any content, so stuff like this is not in White Dwarf anymore, for sure. All
right, mate. So let's start from our Nurgle Plague Tower and Contagion Plague engines. Now I can tell this is definitely a Paul Muller paint job.
Okay,
I'm 100% sure. It's just in his.
Is it those color phase on the skin and stuff?
It's in that incredible contrast that Paul had in painting stuff. Extreme light to extreme dark. So
yeah.
Really make those models
so smooth as well, like so smooth.
And chaos was just his forte. Like chaos, he did chaos. Okay. Yeah, he can give you lots.
Must have been wild working with those guys. Like,
well, you didn't really talk to them so much. You just sat in the same area when painting at the same time. Yeah, looking at their stuff was really, really incredible. The way they did stuff was really amazing. So yeah, no, that's a pretty cool looking model. I quite like the look of the Nurgle Plague Tower, and the Contagion engines look pretty cool. Like
that kind of stretched flesh and the kind of the wood and the steam, and it's all boilers and whatnot. Like so it's quite low tech, but it's quite twisted and weird as well. And of course, the obligatory, you got to get some red paint in there somewhere. So those little timber frames done with the red paint, just to make sure it fitted the criteria of every model must have red paint somewhere.
that's absolutely right. But it reminds me of what Warhammer would look like in 6mm if Rick Priestley got his way with making a 6mm Warhammer game like he had intended to. And these look like, Warhammer Fantasy Siege engines.
Yeah,
they've got that.
Yeah, because there's a couple of bits from the expanded run of Mighty Empires that just touch on this same style, aren't there? I'm trying to think, because Mighty Empires is something I never really played, but they did the metal upgrades, and there are some siege towers that look very, very similar, and I think they may even be the same sculpture. I'm trying to think if this was Dave Andrews.
Dave Andrews did a lot of it. Yeah, I think Dave Andrews did most of all the chaos stuff.
Yeah, I have a feeling they were all Dave Andrews. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, it's that great. Like, one of the great, the great things about Warhammer 40k is it is kind of fantasy in space, isn't it? It is giant knights in giant suits of armor. It's not super clean, high tech space stuff. So yeah, that could be a Warhammer model, but it's a 40k model. So yeah.
Okay, well, we can do a bit of an epic breakdown here, mate, of the epic Nurgle Plague Tower. It's actually got to move at 15 centimeters, so I'm actually really interested in this now. I thought I could be moving really slow, like all Nurgle stuff, but 15 centimeters is pretty good. yeah, 1+ all round saving throw like most of them do. Plus, you can use the cards to negate any.
Because it's a great demon. It's your quote unquote company card for your chaos. Yeah.
But the best thing about it is it can carry 11 stands.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, and that can include, a grey unclean one. You can put the irony is the plague tower is built around a grey unclean one. It's got one living in the middle of it. It's his little party wagon. But then you could put a second grey unclean one in it and transport him up the table. 11 stands. You could fit a full, set of minotaurs and a leader, or trolls and a leader, or you could fit, 2 groups of Chaos Space Marines and a grey unclean one, or something like that. Like, there's things you can do with a plague tower, I think. Yeah, I've only played with mine once or twice, and it's rock solid. It's such a tank.
Getting one. You just sold me on one of those. Thank you very much. I'll be contacting Dave immediately after this conversation, and I'll be getting mine from him. So
good.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Once you said I can put a Greater Demon Nurgle inside it, then I'm totally in for it. Yeah, that's one way I'm going to propel my Greater Demon of Nurgle up the field, and get him safely into range of doing, like, unleashing his pestilence breath or whatever he's got, breath attack weapon. So
I've just realized, like, everything I've just said to you is contained in the text of that article. So obviously I've read this article so many times that information just imprinted itself in my brain, and I just gave it to you like it was my information. But if you read the article, like, genuinely, I was not reading that verbatim. I was just speaking my mind. But actually what I've just done is read you the article that, 11-year-old me, this just imprinted in my brain and was like, this is the information you must remember. So I claim no ownership of what I've just said.
We could never blame GameStop for trying to brainwash the youth of the 1990s, could we? You're not a victim of brainwashing at all.
No comment. My lawyers have advised me not to comment.
So here they are with all their glory, all the demon engines of
that picture, man.
Nurgle with Mortarion. He's one sexy devil I would like to get my hands on at some point.
I sold my spare. Mate, if I'd have known, you could have my duplicate, but I sold it.
Mate, what are you doing?
Sorry.
Breaking my heart.
But also, I mean, that image as well. Like, so, again, this was my first real White Dwarf. Because this is my first White Dwarf, I've read this magazine more than any other White Dwarf kind of thing. And so all of this stuff was how I learned about Warhammer. And so, those epic titans, the Elder Titans, all the flyers, like everything that's going on in that was just brand new to me and the most exciting thing I'd ever seen. And so that sense of scale, like, what I love about it, and perhaps we'll talk about it a bit more when we get to the battle report, but like the thing I hadn't quite glommed onto until I walked into Games Workshop and noticed the models was I thought this was 40k scale. So I was looking at this with my brain just boiling over, like, how are there these massive robots running around? So I thought, those 5 Chaos Space Marines were 40k scale Space Marines. Right. And then they just, zoom the camera out a lot. And of course, then I walked into a Games Workshop and saw a Gargant going around in the thing and was like, I get it now. Because I was like, how do you even paint something of that scale? And of course, the irony is you do play 40k with Titans and Knights now. So it kind of has exploded where, quote unquote epic has no place anymore, because you play 40k with epic scale models just at 40k scale. But I just think there's a grand sweep. There's a sense of 40k done right in photos like this. This is what the artwork and the stories tell you is happening. And then you get your half dozen Space Marines and 1 tank on the table, and you're like, it doesn't quite reflect the story. But then when you play Epic, you're like, no, look, there's a whole battle company of Titans being supported by flyers and a whole infantry platoon going up against this just sea of Chaos troops. It's phenomenal, isn't it?
For me, it does that. That's what Epic does for me. It brings the whole theater of war in this massive scale that you just cannot achieve in 40k. As much as I like to play, it just looks weird. It just looks weird when they put those massive, gigantic looking Titans in the
and they don't, there's no tactical maneuvering in 40k when you've got that many models on the board, because there's just nowhere for them to go. Whereas with an Epic table, you've got a nice 6x4 and 8x4, there's room to throw a company down a flank, or pull a refuse flank and stuff like that. I think it's one of those things we were touching on when we did Renegades. In particular Chaos, like, obviously when Titan Legions came out, all the armies got new cards that weren't in the original the army boxes, I suppose you'd call them.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos got more than anyone, so I think we're going to have to do a couple of shows where we go through all the White Dwarves and fish out all the Chaos upgrades and talk about them, because it's interesting. And what was interesting with that as well is it defined each of the Chaos gods as having their own kind of jam. So Khorne got all the kind of the Titans and the battle engines, the demon engines. Nurgle got this very artillery heavy, plague heavy side. Slaanesh got all the Titans, and then Tzeentch got all the flyers. So it really like allowed you to focus your army on a sort of specific theatre of war or style of war with each of the 4 gods. So I think that's we'll come back to that in a future show perhaps, but I think that was quite an interesting.
Titan Legions is next, mate. Titan Legions is next.
Yeah. No worries.
But yeah, we'll definitely get to that. That's a really good point, because there's things that I'm like the Plague Tower. I didn't know really much about that. So there's little snippets there in White Dwarves that would be great use to many epic players out there. Okay, so here we've got the heavy metal with the Dark Elves again. John, not a fan. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of these at all.
Oh, I love them. I don't get it. I mean,
me saying, I love them. What's wrong with them? There's nothing wrong with them. They're awesome. And then the other person saying, no, I don't really particularly like them. It's the opposite for me today. So,
no, I just
express your love, mate. You go for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, so I've owned basically every generation of Dark Elves. So I started with this. This wasn't the first army I collected. It was Dark Elves. That Warhammer Regiment, those plastic elf swordsmen. I have too many of them, or have had over the years too many of them. My cousin then gave me his older kind of 3rd and 4th edition Dark Elf army. I then got a 5th edition Dark Elf army, an 8th edition Dark Elf. Like, I've done every generation of Dark Elves, and stupidly I stripped all my classic metals, all this generation, with the intent of painting them up, and then sold them. And now I'm just slowly going back and buying back. So I've got a warrior regiment. I've got a harp. Actually, I've never sold my harpies. I've still got my original block of 5 harpies from 1995. But yeah, I'm slowly buying back metal troops. Got a bunch of witch elves now. Got a cold one unit. Got the Cold of Blood, and it just like, because I think a lot of these were Perry twin sculpts. I want to say, were they Perrys or were they the Morrisons?
Hang on, Morrison, mate.
Oh, it was Ailey. Yes, it was Ailey. Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously Ailey and Trish did some of the older ones as well, and it was just that constant evolution of that style. So that the big skull shoulder pads and the kind of the cruel, like, it's that cruel reflection of the High Elves. And yeah, they're a bit goofy, but I guess nostalgia is a powerful drug, and I think they're great. I think the cold ones in particular, that generation of cold ones, the metal cold one knights, are so cool. Got that the plastic sorceress that's in that picture from she was from Talisman. I've got her. I
like her. Yeah, she's a good model.
They don't have the Dark Elf wizard down the front there with the staff and the red sword. He never got released, so I don't have him. But I do have one of the female metal sorcerers that was unreleased. So that was again, my cousin just used to phone up mail order and be like, "Oh, what have you got going on?" And they'd send him, obviously pay for it, but like they'd sell him pre-release models. And so he got a couple of things that never actually got released as a result.
Wow.
So that was one of the things that obviously that would never happen now. But back in the day, you could just phone up mail order and be like, "What's hot off the press?" And they'd be like, "Here, have some kind of pre-run product," which is kind of amazing.
Yeah. No, but I really like the 3rd edition Dark Elves that Ali did. With Colin Dixon, I think they're really nice models. They're beautiful. Yeah, I really like them a lot. And
yeah, I've got an army of those upstairs.
The 4th edition ones I don't particularly like much at all.
So what's what is it? What don't you like about them?
The posing. Yeah, particularly the posing. The executioners are pretty cool with their helmets and the big 2-handed axes. I think they're
so nice. That's the Blackguard there. The executioners were the unreleased regiment. Correct. Yeah, they only came out like one American Games Day. You could get the executioners for like one day, and so they're like super highly sought after.
Right. Okay. Well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man.
The old Whitfields are great. The new ones.
Yeah, they're good fun. Impossible to rank up. That is one thing I will say. Even like when you look at those Corsairs, you can see that there's a kind of a line behind each. Like there's a gap in the regiment because you just can't rank the damn things up. So that is definitely a problem. But I'm a sucker for a one-part metal model. Like, as much as I think the new GW plastics are incredible, like technologically, there's something really fun about smashing open a blister pack on a sort of Saturday morning, gluing it together, and having it ready to paint that day, as opposed to I've got to build, I've got to clean up 13 different tiny plastic parts and work out the Tetris-like system of locking them together. Whereas it's like one part, slap it on a base, chuck some spray paint on it, bosh, off we go. Like, those really nice chunky details that they just you've been doing all your epic stuff recently. It's very easy to paint old Warhammer because everything's so exaggerated, if that makes sense.
Yes. I know. So, I totally agree. And if you said that you enjoy putting together those new Games Workshop kits, did you say that? Did you admit that?
No, I'm not saying I enjoy it. I'm saying it's a very different process to the old days when you just busted a box open and glued them in. Okay.
Well, if you said you enjoy it, I was going to send you a whole box of them, because I've got a commission here, all ages.
Oh, really?
Stuff. Yeah, I've got to put them all together. It's an absolute bloody nightmare.
Which unit?
All that, like the high elves, but they're called something else now.
Oh, the new ones, the Luminous Realm Lords.
But the characters are not too bad because they're on one sprue, but the regiments are all individual parts for a particular model. You cannot interchange them.
No.
And
it's not like the old days, is it, mate?
It's not the old days, mate. Not like the old days. But, I've got to admit that they're better to paint than to put together. I'd say.
Sure. I mean, like my buddy John, he tears his hair out building. So he hates building stuff because it's so like he's a really good player. He's a Golden Demon finalist. Like he can paint monitors. He's not an idiot, but it's just like it's you spend as long building the things as painting them now. For sure.
Right. Yeah. Okay, let's go to Blood Angel Terminators. Here we've got a selection of Terminators with the Stormhammer Storm Shield.
The new upgrade,
Thunderhammer Storm Shield, sorry. And we've got the Cyclone Missile Launcher and a squadron of Blood Angels with Assault Cannon, Lightning Claws. I think they were the only chapter that could have a whole variation of all the different types of weapons that the Terminators could carry in their war gear.
I wonder again, like I talk about how maybe this article imprinted on me. Like when I play Space Marines, I play Blood Angels.
Right. Okay.
Did this magazine just set the path for my future? Like the armies I come back to are
successfully.
Yeah, like
codename Jon Webb.
Oh no!
Disciple number 0175264.
Cut him in half. He says Games Workshop down the middle. Yeah. Definitely.
But Dark. I like the Blood Angels. I wasn't going to say Dark Angels because I like Dark Angels a lot as well, and they're the chapter I played with. But equally I love the Blood Angels because there was something pretty dark about their psyche and.
It's that they want to be heroes, but they have that fatal flaw that they inherited. Like it's not even like they deliberately do this; it's they have this kind of this mania that's just bubbling under. And then reading all these stories, like I love the green boxes. Like I love that marbled green that have all it's a narrative section because there's this marbled green sort of background to it, and you're reading about it. And again, it was this was my introduction to the Horus Heresy and the story of the Emperor's Fall and stuff like that. So again, naive 11-year-old me, just all these words flowing into my brain, and I was just getting into really getting into science fiction fantasy in a big way, and it was all like, oh my god, like I was a perfect sponge ready to absorb Games Workshop, I think.
Mate, you're the perfect candidate, perfect experiment.
I think so.
Yeah, brainwashing. Okay, so we've got Golden Demon 95, talking about when it was
£7 for a ticket.
Yeah.
Did you go to Golden Demon 95?
It was 95 because
you were there.
Yeah, 95. I was there because I was working there, mate. I was working. I was working in London. Was I working in London at the time or Nottingham?
Right.
I'd be London, and then I
made it along.
There. Yeah, I got there, and I can't hardly remember anything about it. That's how terrible my memory is, sadly.
Right. It was just so action-packed, so much going on. You were just exhausted by the end of it. Your brain just took your body into shutdown.
Yeah. All I remember is just standing on the stage and like people were yelling at you with money, and they were saying, "I want this. I want the."
You were on the store.
I was on the store thing because I was.
That would be exhausting.
And then you have to go to the blister pack rack and take it off there and take the money and. Yeah, that's the only thing I can remember about it. And just seeing this amazing, I think it was an epic, maybe it was Titan Legions, because Titan Legions was released at that time, but a huge diorama of this massive scale battle between orcs and Imperials, I think, from memory. But yeah, that's all I can remember about it, mate. So sadly, maybe it's all locked away there. I just need to go and see somebody to unlock all those.
I was going to say, you'll have to, like, again, if there's anyone in the comments that was a 95 and maybe was served by Josh on the stand, like, get in touch, do a show with
big, tall, lanky Aussie guy.
Yeah.
If you remember him, then please let us know in the comments. But it's a shame I can't remember that, because I don't even remember seeing because Golden Demon and Games Day were the same thing, the same event at that stage. So I don't even remember. Maybe I had no time. That's probably the other thing.
It wouldn't surprise me. You just weren't able to get off the stand. Like, you got off the stand to throw a sandwich down you, and that was the end of it. Yeah,
because you're effectively working. So you know, it's like you didn't have time to enjoy anything. So that's a shame. Okay, so there's the guidelines. This is it Fred Reed?
Yep, Fred Reed taught me how to play Blood Bowl. My first demo of Blood Bowl was with Mr. Fred Reed, and he showed me his Thunderhawk, which always sounds dodgier than it was. He was converting up. You see it in a later White Dwarf. Actually, he converted his Thunderhawk to be a Chaos Thunderhawk, and he showed it to me when it was in the built stage, and he was hand drilling all the brass rod to do all the rivets down the side of it, and I was just like, "You're a madman." But he was a really good guy. And Bristol was kind of the flagship store, apart from obviously you were up in Plaza, and kind of Plaza and Bristol were the two flagship stores at the time, really. So Bristol was an incredible store with a really awesome group of people. And then, over the years, Bristol kind of diminished, and it halved inside, and it moved again, and it's just not what it once was. Like, once upon a time, it was the South's kind of crown store, as it were. So yeah, he's fond memories of popping into Bristol and seeing Fred. Again, a little bit of history, a little bit of nostalgia.
I hope Fred's still around. So if you are around Fred and you're watching this, please comment
get in
below.
touch.
You do remember John teaching him Blood Bowl at that stage?
Can you imagine how many Blood Bowl demos the man ran? Oh yeah, there's this one guy. Like, nah, come on.
Yeah, he's talking about Blood Angels a lot. I don't know what he was on about. But saying, is there any Blood Angels in Blood Bowl? No, sorry, John. There's no Blood Angels.
Oh, get out.
Yeah. Any epic scale models? No, sorry, John. There's no epic scale models.
I think that's it. Blood Bowl wasn't in this issue, so I've never cared about Blood Bowl. I think we've discovered a lot today, Josh. You've taught me something.
Yep. So here you go. There's your entry form. So sign away. And okay, you don't have to send any money in, thank goodness, because that would cause a few headaches for people. But we've got Screaming Death, and this has come up in a few issues we've covered already. Get your Screaming
another road show.
T-shirt. Yeah, another road show. This would be a really cool one. I would have really liked to go to this one.
Yeah.
Now that I'm into my Skaven.
Great T-shirt. That's a great T-shirt.
Yeah, it's a limited edition T-shirt. So if you have one of these T-shirts, please tell us in the comments and send
how many holes are in it if you've still got it.
Yeah. How much do you want?
How badly does it smell?
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. What's next? Warhammer Quest, Creatures of Darkness, Ian Pickstock. This is a Warhammer Quest article for those who are really into their Warhammer Quest and questing.
It's teaching you how to use kind of any model in the game, which I think really, like, that's something that's really cool. The notion that you could play Warhammer Quest and any Warhammer model you own, you could put it into the game. Like, not many games do that anymore. Like, they kind of carve it up and they'll sell you the elf expansion, the goblin expansion, whatever. Whereas this was like, no, buy these blank cards and you can make profiles for everything. Like, that's such a cool idea. And you custom build the dungeons that you run. I love the thought of that.
That's good. It's a great idea.
And some awesome Dark Elf models that are some of the best Dark Elves ever sculpted.
Yes. Right, it's quite the coincidence, isn't it? The Dark Elves would feature in this article.
And indeed, the month they were released, it's like, oh, you should definitely buy these and play them in a different game. Like,
marketing had no influence on this article whatsoever. I'm
definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay, get your subscriptions. Did you ever get a subscription?
I did, but the weird thing is, I got White Dwarf every month, but I used to go to the local corner shop and pick it up. I only subscribed to White Dwarf when I started working for Games Workshop, or just before. Even though we got a free copy, I'd always get my subscription copy a week earlier, and then I've got a subscription now. So when the new the revised version of White Dwarf, when they brought it back from the White Dwarf Weekly back to a proper monthly magazine, I was just coming off the back of my 10 years in the wilderness away from Games Workshop, playing with, seeing other games behind Games Workshop's back. And that was the kind of part of the incentive to me to be like, I think maybe it's time to re-engage. They're doing this new White Dwarf. They're talking about it being more like, a kind of a return to strength. And so I started subscribing then, and I've been subscribing again ever since. But my White Dwarf runs from just before, like, even though 188 is my first issue, I actually bought a couple prior to this as well, mostly for the epic stuff. But it ran from 188 to probably about 380-ish. And then I dropped off for a decade to like I say, to see War Machine behind Warhammer's back.
You had one.
And but I've read, like, because
you obviously weren't indoctrinated enough, John. You're going back to the indoctrination.
Well, this is it, mate. They got their claws in, and even when I thought I was out, they got me back in.
I think we've all been slightly brainwashed, though, isn't it? Because we all come back. Yeah. We all come back in the end. Yeah, to Mama and Papa at Games Workshop.
You know it.
You can't beat it. Okay, so here we go. This is the important bit, right? This is the penultimate article for you, mate. This is the Stomp and Smash with Gavin Thorpe and Adrian Wood as they battle it out in epic Titan Legions. 6,000
points. I think this is why epic, more than anything, ingrained in me. So even though it wasn't the game I played that much until kind of my later years, it was the game that really stuck in my mind. And like I say, it was the Imperator Titan. That was the first, again, I've told the story, it was the first kind of thing I'd ever seen. It was hanging in a poster in the window of Games Workshop Bath, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but I love it. And then this article, like I said, I was reading this thinking this was 40k scale, and the other thing I couldn't quite wrap my head around, because I hadn't wargamed at this point, really, I was just getting into it. The kind of the narrative bits, like I say, the bits with the green marble backing, I didn't quite understand how they were being generated. So I was like, how is the game telling you what's happening? I didn't realize, of course, someone just writes a story after the fact, because I was a child and I was stupid. So it was this whole thing of like, how do they know that the guy in charge of this robot was saying this and this event was taking place? Just the scale and the scope, and that army and the Orc army is so. I couldn't tell you how many times I've read this battle report, and I love those Reavers, and I think I fell in love with those Reavers because of this article. I love the Gargants again because of this article. And I did I had a Mega Gargant, a Goth Mob, and the Gut Rippers, and that was my epic army. And of course, I've gone back and looked at it, and actually, it's probably about 2,000 a bit points. So I didn't actually have as small an army as I thought. I always thought I had a non-existent epic army, but it's a bit more than I thought. And it's nice. I'm slowly building up to where I can field this army again painted. I've done all the Goths, done one of the Gargants, and I'm slowly working my way through all the cards so that I can one day recreate this battle, because it's such an important part of me, becoming a wargamer and really falling in love with epic. And like I say, I thought all this was happening at 40k scale, so I assumed they were just playing in a car park or something. How do you get all these models on the table when they're so big?
Funnily enough, John, but maybe you remember there was a particular White Dwarf that had a games day featured in there in the very first pages, where they actually played Epic Space Marine with 40k models. Okay. And they made their own Gargants and everything out of cardboard, plastic card and whatever.
Yeah.
I'll have to see if I can find that issue and show you, because you'd be quite impressed with that one.
I'll dive into it. I saw Titan Legions being played with the Forge World full resin, so 40k scaled. Adeptus Titanicus. And that's pretty impressive. And so you could just put the squads. And I think that thing is that's what Apocalypse, not Armageddon. That's what Apocalypse became.
Right.
Even down to you put all your Space Marines on little 5-man stands, so they literally became as if it was an epic, stand of Space Marines, and you took them off in groups of 5, not one by one. So really, I think that a lot, and if you read the rules for the latest version of Apocalypse, it does draw quite heavily on some of the epic mechanics. So you can now just do this at 40k scale, but I don't know, man. There is a you and I are suckers for this scale. We love these miniatures for whatever reason, and I just think nothing beats this spread and this, and like I say, this story, the story of the when the Mega Gargant goes up and the boss orc is shouting his orders, and I was like, how do you do this in a game? How do you know what he's saying to his crew? And of course, they just made it up. It's just a stupid story written off the back of the article, but I was so caught by it that I literally thought this is what has happened in this game. This character has had this event happen to them, and they're now dead. And children are stupid. What are you going to do?
Well, the Orcs got an absolute thrashing.
Oh, they got absolutely spanned. Yeah,
thrashed. So for all
not the worst. Not the worst. There's the 4,000 point Blood Angels versus Orcs army where I think it's like 10 points to the Orcs by the end. Like they barely killed a model, but yeah, this is a pretty hefty spanking for the Orcs.
Yeah, that was quite. Yeah,
don't take tiny coals of speed. Like if you're going to do a cult of speed, put more models in it. That's the advice off the back of this article.
That's definitely when you get your clan morale boosted to the max.
Push it up. Yeah.
Okay, so that was an interesting article. So if you're interested in that, go to see that PDF or the White Dwarf itself to read through that game report. So here we've got the red
nice
and white pages of all the
Gordon Davidson there.
Gordon's there. Yeah,
he's a good lad. Working with Rob down in Firestorm now. He's gone on.
Oh, really? Is he?
So yeah. He weren't off the Battlefront, and then he's come from Battlefront to he's working with Rob on their new 3D printing venture. So he's still about.
Oh, that's great. That's good to hear. Good to hear. He's an amazing Orc Goblin army.
Definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. I hope he's still got it too.
Yeah, I saw Paul Sawyer sold his Epic Orc army that becomes quite well known in some of the, and I was just like, man, how could you do that? But again, he's out, he's not interested anymore. But like, what a tragedy! Like selling off that, star turned. Same with Andy Chambers. You wonder about Andy. Like, has he still got all his Epic Orcs?
I don't know. I know he's got his Skaven army. He's got his Skaven army.
Oh, has he? Good. I mean, that's a famous army, isn't it? That's like
that's travelled several continents. Apparently, what he's been
really.
It's gone everywhere with him. So.
I've been thinking about this. This is me getting a bit grim in my old age, but like we know none of us are getting any younger. We know friends are either drifting out of the hobby, or dare I say, even dying. We need. There's that apocryphal the clown museum where every clown's face appears. We need the Wargamer, apocryphal museum where when a Wargamer dies, their armies go to this museum, and there's just like a kind of a shrine to every gamer where their painted armies are laid out and people can pay to visit. And I don't know, man. Like, it sounds crazy. It's just toys, but like, you think how much blood and sweat you put into this stuff, and then when you croak, it just gets chucked in the bin, and it's just like, oh, that's heartbreaking. Like,
but it was fun doing it at the time. Yeah, it's fun doing it at the time. That's the thing. Like, what else are you going to do? I mean, I just can't. I'm not the type to sit and vegetate in front of a TV or a computer. I just can't do it. I've got to have a hobby. I've got to be active. I've got to be doing something with my hands and keep myself busy. So. And enjoy playing games, most importantly. Okay, so this has got quite an extensive range of all these models. It's huge. Of course, all the Dark Elf releases.
How often have you poured through these catalogs? And like, I bought the 95, 96 catalog combined with everything in it, and it just, seeing the breadth of the range and seeing the evolution of the models, and there's just so much good stuff in here. And again, it's that there is, I understand, we run a company of nowhere near the scale of GW, but like, you can't do individual parts anymore. It's just a logistical nightmare. But there was something incredible about being able to buy your models piece by piece and do these crazy conversions. And we sort of said about it before, like we'd mail order like 50 of the frogs from the Bretonian sorceress, and you'd sort of paint them up and hide them around the store, and just like, you can't do stuff like that anymore because you can't just get the individual parts. Or I want to make this really awesome Chaos Lord, but I need this specific head, and I don't really want to buy a £50 box just to get the head out of it. Whereas in the old days, you mail order and be like, 25p, you have the head, like something. And there are still people doing it. There are people doing these incredible conversions where they do buy 50 boxes and combine them to make one incredibly expensive character. But it's just I understand why logistically it's not viable, but we lost something as a result. And again, you got a different back page. Look at that.
There you go, mate. This is the last page of the issue.
That's it.
The Tyranid swarm burst from the jungle to engulf an Imperial Guard outpost. Wow, look at that Tiller Guard. Awesome.
Superb image. Yeah.
Right.
Love it. And you seen someone's got that chapel, like the chapel got chucked out and somebody has saved it from a skip. And
you're kidding. That got thrown in the incident.
That got skipped, yeah. Either that or he's got an incredibly good replica, but I'm fairly certain he's got one of the parts from the chapel. Same with the High Elf Tower we talked about before, like they chucked the High Elf Tower out as well against someone and bin dived and saved it, or maybe it was given to someone. Yeah, man.
Got that, thank goodness. But
I remember trying to build that chapel because I was so good, and I just could not fathom how you got that like depth of detail, that kind of 3D element, and so abandoned it. But like, what an incredible scene!
That's awesome.
The crazy jungle and the ruins. Like again, peak 40k. Like it's on a green table, but it just works, doesn't it?
No, it does, absolutely.
All those sweet Tyranids, all those sweet guardsmen. Man, there you go.
Well, thank you very much.
I'll have to build some Imperial Guard.
And get some dark.
Screw this epic nonsense. I got some guards and dark elves to build. And that's how it gets you, man. That's what happens, right? You dive into an issue, and before you know it, ideas are sparked and eBay is being trawled.
Yeah, no, don't do that, mate. You've got plenty of models there to get on with there. You've got lots of epic stuff, mate. Epic stuff to get on with.
You know it.
But John, it's always been entertaining as always, mate. Thank you,
mate. Love it. You know me, I'll talk for England if I can.
Yeah. And we love that too. So thanks again, John, for your
always a pleasure, dude.
Insights into this issue. It's been really good to go through it with you. I've enjoyed it a lot, especially the epic stuff. So I'm really turned on with the Plague Tower. So thanks for selling me on that. Man. So
no worries. My Contagions got bombed off the table turn 1, so I have no idea how they perform.
Right.
My Plague Tower went the distance, so
it should do, mate. It should do. Yeah.
That 1-up save and the old Chaos Cast to save it's pretty tanky.
That's all you got. And the insurance there. So from Nurgle himself. Awesome. All right, mate. Thank you very much again.
No worries. We'll catch you for Titan Legions in the near future.
Absolutely. See you soon for Titan Legions. And thanks everybody for watching.
Take care. Cheers, guys. See you soon.